latest on the spike and what you can do to protect yourself. We're joined by Dr. Timothy Quinn from Quinn Healthcare in Ridgeland. Dr. Quinn, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Should Mississippi be worried or concerned about catching COVID right now?
Well, we should definitely be concerned because we're seeing quite an uptick in cases at our practice and across the state. The bottom line is what we need to do is we need to know our personal risk factors. If we're someone that's immunocompromised, someone that's typically older in age, chronic medical conditions, we should really be concerned.
Dr. Quinn, what's causing this rise right now? Is there anything in particular that's going on? The heat, the whatever?
I mean, there are multiple factors. What's being attributed is the fact that if we've had COVID before, we have some immunity, but these new variants, they're more easily able to evade our immune defenses, but also the heat. I mean, it's very hot. People are congregating indoors more respiratory secretions being spread around. So this is all being attributed, but the take home is we need to know our risk factors. If we haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated. And also there's a new booster coming out at the middle to the end of this month. It's really highly advised that we get this new booster because it's much more effective against these latest variants.
Is the spike we're seeing now, how do you compare it to previous spikes we've had in the past?
Well, it's nowhere near the highest of COVID back in 2021, but we still need to watch the trends because even with those trends where people were dying at hundreds of people every day in the United States, it started out small and it started to increase slowly. And that's what's going on now. So we just need to be on the lookout and we need to get those vaccinations, get those boosters. If you feel ill, go ahead and get tested and isolate yourself if you're positive. Get treatment and know your risk factors. If you're someone that's immunocompromised, you're vulnerable, go ahead and start masking up, especially if you're indoors.
I don't know if it's naysayers who say, oh, if it's bad now, just wait, it could get worse. Could it get worse than what the data is suggesting?
It could. I mean, but the take home is, and what's being suggested by the CDC is we now have the knowledge of how to better contain it than we did when it first started, when we had never seen it before. And some of these suggestions by the CDC is number one, get your vaccination. If you haven't been vaccinated, get that booster. Also get tested. If you have symptoms, don't just go to work coughing. Go ahead and get tested. And if you're positive, stay home. And also note, if you get tested with a negative test and you have symptoms, you might still be in that incubation period, which could be 2 to 7 days. So you might be positive, but it might not be positive on the test yet. So if you have any suspicion, go ahead and stay home, mask up, and test again in 2 to 3 days.
Yeah, what is the recommendation for staying home now that if you get COVID today than what was back in last year?
Well, that's correct. The latest CDC recommendation is to stay home for 5 days. But if you're severely ill, you can stay home longer until you have some resolution of symptoms. But 5 days is the minimum. And I advise all my patients to go ahead and wear a mask for at least 7 to 10 days, just so that they can decrease the risk of spread to keep everybody safe.
I have a question about this, the booster that's coming out, and I'm going to ask more than I know. Here,
right. Oh, yeah.
Is this recombinant DNA thing, or is this more like a traditional, like a flu shot where they take the virus and make an antivirus to go particularly specifically against that one virus?
Right. Well, the difference with this new booster that's coming out is something called monovalent, where it's specific for the latest variants of the virus. The EG5, that's the one that's the dominant strain right now, and it's much more reactive. But the take home is, if you haven't been vaccinated, go ahead and get your vaccination. But that booster is so important because these new variants, they're being determined to be the old vaccines are and the old boosters are less effective of these new variants. So this new variant is much more effective, and that's the take home. So it's so important we get that vaccine as soon as it comes out, and it's being predicted that it will be available around September the 15th to the end of the month. But let's go ahead and get that booster.
So basically, we're going to need a COVID shot like we need a flu shot for the most part. Is that how what it looks like now?
That's what it looks like. And the good news is the science and the technology that we have now, we're able to watch these variants, monitor the sequencing of the mutations that they have on that spike protein, and we can tailor specific our new boosters so that they attack those new variants, which is being done, which makes us a whole lot safer.
And wrap it up with this: can you get the flu shot and the COVID shot at the same time?
You can. It's being advised. Go ahead, if you haven't had your flu shot, when you get that booster, they just advise to get it in both arms, jabbing that arm, and walk out safer, not only for yourself, but your family and everyone you love.
Dr. Quinn, thank you so much. appreciate you giving up some of your Labor Day holiday to come out here.
Thank
And
you.
your lovely bride is along with you too. Thank her
Thank you for having us.
bringing you out or making you come or whatever she did.
Thank you.